Welcome back to our new story 2, Sinful Seduction, a Mafia romance tale. Before Chapter 1 begins, let the world whisper its secrets. In a realm carved by fate and fire, where hearts break louder than wars, and silence often speaks more than screams, there begins a journey unlike any other. This is not just a story, it's a heartbeat pressed between pages. A war of love, loss, loyalty, and the hunger for something more. Every word ahead will test your soul. Now close your eyes, breathe in, and step beyond the ordinary. The real story begins now. 2. Sinful Seduction. Chapter 1. Temptation's Dark Embrace. The cold night air clung to Amelia's skin as she stood outside the club, a heavy silence wrapping around her. Bright neon lights flashed above, but they felt distant, almost unreal. This place, with its pulsating music and swirling bodies, was a world she had long avoided. Yet here she was, drawn by a force she couldn't understand. She took a breath and stepped inside, her heart racing, but it was not just the thrill of the unknown. It was him. Luciano was a shadow in the dark, his presence commanding and magnetic. She could see him even before he spotted her, his dark hair slicked back, his sharp suit tailored to perfection. He moved through the crowd like a predator, every step calculated. The moment their eyes met, a shiver ran down her spine. She was caught, ensnared in a web of danger and desire. Emilia forced herself to look away, but her heart screamed for more. As she leaned against the bar watching him, the weight of her emotions bore down on her. She was not supposed to be here, not in a place like this, with a man like him. He was a part of a world filled with secrets and lies, a world built on power and fear. But standing in that club, she felt alive for the first time in years. The thrill of temptation danced around her like the colorful lights above. But Amelia struggled to stay grounded, a part of her wanting to flee. She had learned to keep her distance. Love was a game she couldn't afford to play. Yet Luciano was not just any man. He was a Mafia heir, the heart of crime wrapped in danger and charm. His world was her greatest fear, yet it also promised a thrill she craved. As the music thumped, she spotted him approaching. Each step he took was deliberate, as if he knew the power he held over her. Her heart raced. "You look beautiful tonight," he said, his voice smooth like velvet. It wrapped around her, coaxing her closer. "Care to dance?" Emilia hesitated, the weight of her decision threatening to pull her under. She knew he was dangerous, but the way he looked at her made her feel invincible. Just one dance, she thought, and with a nod, she allowed him to take her hand. They moved to the center of the dance floor, surrounded by swirling bodies, the bass of the music unsettling her thoughts. He pulled her close, their bodies pressing against each other, and the world around them began to fade. It felt intoxicating. Lucia's eyes never left hers, holding an unspoken promise, a hint of danger lacing his every word. "You shouldn't be here, Amelia," he whispered, his breath hot against her ear. "But I'm glad you are." The words sent an unexpected thrill through her, igniting something deep inside. Emilia lost herself in the rhythm, in the warmth of Luciano's body against hers. It was as if the music was their only language. With each sway, the doubts that haunted her slowly faded, replaced by a need that scared her. But the elation was short-lived. As the song ended, reality crashed in like a cold wave. The club was rife with tension. Men in tailored suits eyed her, their hardened expressions warning her of the danger lurking just outside the spotlight. Luciano's grip tightened around her waist. He could sense it too, the threat that loomed. Suddenly, the carefree moment twisted into something heavier, something darker. "Emilia, you need to trust me," Luciano said, his voice low and serious. "We have to leave. Now!" Panic surged through her. "Where are we going?" she asked, needing reassurance. But his eyes held no comfort, only a burning urgency. They pushed through the crowd, her heart pounding, fear mixing with excitement coursing through her veins. Outside, the night felt alive, electric with tension. Luciano led her to a sleek black car waiting at the curb, its engine humming softly. She climbed in, and as the door slammed shut behind her, She felt a mix of dread and exhilaration. Was it too late to turn back? She glanced at Luciano, his jaw set, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. He was not just any man. He was an enigma wrapped in shadows, and she was losing herself further into the darkness of his world. "Who are they?" she asked, realizing the danger they had just escaped. "We can't stay like this." "We're safe for now," he assured her, but the tension in his voice was a warning. Emilia's heart raced as she considered the choices ahead. Would she continue down this path, or find a way out before it swallowed her whole? As they drove deeper into the city, reality slipped away, leaving only a dreamlike haze behind. She felt both terrified and exhilarated. Could love blossom amidst such chaos? As she looked at Luciano, a fierce urge took hold. She was ensnared, wrapped in his world, but there was still hope. Perhaps there was a chance for redemption. Perhaps in the embrace of darkness, she could still find light. In his eyes, she saw not just danger, but a promise, the allure of a life that could be hers. But with that promise came a price. Was she willing to pay it? In the midst of chaos, Emilia chose to embrace that uncertainty. The night still held many secrets, but one thing was clear. She was not ready to let go of Luciano or what he represented. The road ahead was uncertain, and fear lingered in the air. But so did the spark of something beautiful, something worth chasing, even in the deepest shadows. Second, Sinful Seduction. Chapter 2, Caught in the Crossfire of Desire. Emilia's pulse raced as the black car sped through the shadowed streets. Luciano gripped the steering wheel tightly, his jaw set in determination. The world outside blurred, but inside tension crackled like electricity. She was tangled in a web of desire and danger, and each second felt heavy with uncertainty. The warmth of his presence beside her sent shivers down her spine, and yet every glance at him reminded her of the risky path she had chosen. They turned down a narrow alley, the sound of music fading until only the thumping bass echoed in her ears. She looked out the window, seeing the city morph into a blur of colors, as if her heart was racing too fast for reality to keep up. Emilia's mind flashed back to the club, the way they had danced, the way he had pulled her close, but that thrill had swiftly turned into fear when they had fled. "Why are we hiding?" she finally asked, breaking the silence that thickened, the air between them. "There's a reason I needed to get you out of there," he said without looking at her. "We are in a world full of enemies." "What do you mean?" she pressed, unable to suppress the worry gnawing at her. His eyes finally met hers, a mixture of frustration and concern swirling in his gaze. "You don't understand the danger, Emilia. People want me, and that means they want you too." The weight of his words settled heavily in her stomach. Suddenly, the seductive thrill began to feel like a trap. She had willingly stepped into a world filled with shadows, but now they were closing in. "What are we going to do?" she whispered, holding her breath as fear pooled within her. "You need to trust me," he said, his voice steady yet filled with urgency. "I'll keep you safe, but we have to move." She nodded, though doubt crept into her mind. Was this the right choice? The elegant life she had known was slipping away, replaced by a dangerous game that could end badly. But as she looked at Luciano, there was a strange fire within her, a desire to explore the depths of this world, to understand him, even if it terrified her. They finally parked behind an old warehouse. Luciano leaped out, his movements fluid and alert. Emilia followed, a mix of excitement and dread coursing through her veins. "Stay close," he instructed as he led her inside. The darkness enveloped them, but a faint light flickered in the distance. Inside, the air felt stale, as if echoes of past secrets lingered on the walls. The space was filled with crates and shadows, each corner whispering stories of a hidden life. But her attention was consumed by Luciano. He moved like a king in his realm, every step precise and controlled. "What are we doing here?" Emilia asked as they ventured further inside. "It's safer," he replied, glancing over his shoulder. "I need to call some people." Under the flickering light, she watched him pull out his phone, the lines of tension deepening on his face. Panic bubbled up inside her. She felt trapped, as if the walls were closing in. "Are you sure this is safe?" "For now," he said. but he looked concerned. I just need a moment. As she waited, the heavy silence pressed down around her. She felt the urge to run, to escape this madness. But something stopped her. The heat of their earlier connection still flickered brightly in her heart. Despite the danger, there was a longing to stay, an inescapable pull toward Luciano and the thrilling unknown. Suddenly, a sound shattered the silence. The echo of footsteps approached, heavy and menacing. Emilia's heart dropped. Castro's men were searching for them. Panic surged. The voices grew louder, angry and demanding. Emilia grabbed Luciano's arm. We have to go. Now! Stay low, he hissed, pulling her behind a stack of crates. They crouched close, breathing in the dust and fear. Emilia's mind raced. Thoughts of escape danced dangerously close to the edge of desperation. I can't do this, Luciano, she murmured as fear gripped her throat. What if they find us? He turned to her, eyes smoldering with intensity. You're stronger than you think. Stay with me. She felt the weight of his gaze, steady and fierce. In that moment, something shifted inside her. She chose to trust him, to step further into the unknown. As the footsteps drew nearer, the world faded away until it was just the two of them, a fragile connection forged in fire. The footsteps stopped just outside. Emilia held, her breath, fear, and desire intertwining as she nestled closer to him. The voices grew louder, demanding to speak to Luciano. She could see the tension radiating from him, a storm brewing under the surface. Get ready, he whispered. Whatever happens, don't move until I tell you to. Time stretched thin as she waited, her heart pounding against her ribcage. In that moment, she realized she had crossed a line she couldn't uncross. She was not just a bystander anymore. She was part of this dangerous world entwined in a life that could either break her or set her free. Finally, Luciano burst into action, the door flinging open as he charged out. If you want me, come get me, he called out. Emilia's breath hitched, a mix of admiration and fear coursing through her. She had never seen him like this, fearless and daring. The sounds of chaos erupted outside as voices shouted and bodies collided. A brief moment of confusion engulfed her. In that instant, she had to decide. Would she stay trapped in fear or step into the chaos beside him? Heart racing, she picked up her courage and darted out behind him. The world became a blur of shouting and confusion. Luciano fought fiercely, protecting her as they moved through the chaos together. Despite the chaos swirling around her, she felt something ignite within her, a burning flame of hope and determination. They moved quickly, dodging shouts and fists, until they finally found the escape route. Just as they broke through the doors into the fresh night air, Emilia felt a rush of exhilaration. They had made it, but a new realization washed over her. Caught in the crossfire of desire and danger, the life she might have wanted was gone. But something deeper was awakening. The uncertainty of the future loomed ahead, yet the night had sparked a fire in her soul. Love and risk had become intertwined, and as she ran beside Luciano through the darkened city, she could feel it. The intoxicating taste of freedom mixed with a hint of danger, and the knowledge that she was ready to embrace it all. Second, Sinful Seduction. Chapter 3. A Dance with Devotion and Deceit. The soft glow of moonlight spilled into the dimly lit room, casting long shadows on the walls. Emilia perched on the edge of a lavish sofa, her heart racing. After their escape, they had taken refuge in one of Luciano's safe houses, a place that felt both foreign and oddly comforting. She could still feel the adrenaline coursing through her, but now the room held an unsettling silence. The thrill of their daring getaway had faded, leaving only questions and fears that hung in the air like thick fog. Luciano moved around the room with a tense energy, his expression tight. He was a man of many masks, but tonight the mask of the protector was slipping to reveal something deeper. She could see it in the way he moved, the way his eyes flickered with uncertainty. We need to make a plan, he said, breaking the silence. The steady command in his voice felt strangely reassuring, yet Emilia sensed the weight of unspoken truths that lay between them. What kind of plan? She asked, folding her hands in her lap. Should we go back? Or... The thought of returning to the chaos frightened her. No, The intensity of his gaze held her captive. Going back is not an option. We need to keep moving forward. He paused, running a hand through his hair. But I also need you to understand what we're up against. She leaned in, eager to know more, but the walls of fear rose again. What do you mean? What's really going on? The question tumbled out, desperation lacing her words. Luciano scanned the room, tension radiating from him. There are enemies watching, he said. They won't stop until they find me, and you. The weight of his words crashed over her. She could feel the danger squeezing her heart, but at the same time, there was an undeniable thrill. If we're in that much danger, why did you bring me into this? She asked, pain seeping into her tone. I had a life. I'd rather be safe than whatever this is. His eyes softened, a hint of vulnerability breaking through the tough exterior. Because you're worth the risk, Emilia. You have no idea how much you mean to me. Her breath caught in her throat. This was the moment she had been waiting for, but fear mixed with hope caused a storm of emotions. Did she dare let herself believe in this? The connection they shared was strong, but now it felt tangled in a web of deceit and danger. Their eyes held for a moment, a silence stretching between them that buzzed with unspoken words. Time stood still as she processed the weight of his confession. So what do we do now, she whispered, feeling vulnerable and exposed in the warmth of his gaze. We dance, Luciano said, stepping closer, but a dance of caution, of devotion, and yes, of deceit. He reached out and took her hand, pulling her to her feet. The contact stirred something deep within her, the heat of anticipation mixing with uncertainty. But a dance? She echoed, confusion swirling. Yes, he replied, a smirk playing on his lips, but his eyes revealed seriousness. Let me show you. He led her into the center of the room, the dim light wrapping around them like a cocoon. Emilia felt her heart race anew as Luciano took her into his arms. They moved slowly at first, almost as if testing the waters. Beneath the surface, a powerful current of emotion surged. I don't know how to dance like this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. It doesn't matter, he replied, placing his other hand gently on her waist. Just follow my lead. As they swayed, she could feel her body responding to his. Each move drew them closer together, heartbeats sinking in a rhythm only they could hear. She caught flashes of desire in his gaze, the heat between them intensifying with every step. But as they danced, her mind flashed back to the danger lurking outside. A reality check hit her hard. What if they find us here? She asked, worrying about what their embrace meant in the larger scheme. Then we fight. But tonight, let's make this moment ours. She took a deep breath, anxiety battling with her urge to cling to this fleeting bliss. The music in her heart drowned out the fear. She let herself surrender to the moment. They moved together in a fluid dance, her body melting into his. In that instant, all the tension faded. The world outside ceased to exist. She was lost in the heat of his gaze, the strength of his arms, the gentle sway of their bodies. But reality is never far away. Suddenly, a harsh sound broke their reverie. Gunshots echoed in the distance, a reminder that danger was never too far behind. Her heart lurched in fear. But instead of breaking apart, Luciano tightened his hold, drawing her closer. Stay with me, he commanded, his grip reassuring but fierce, like the storm outside. I am, she breathed, her voice shaky. The tension between them crackled with electricity. She was torn in two directions, desire and fear. The world outside pressed against the walls, but in this moment, Luciano was her sanctuary, and she was all in, embracing both love and peril. Encouraged, she leaned into him. What if we can't escape this? What if it catches up to us? He met her gaze with a steadfast look. Then we make our choice. I will protect you, whatever it takes. But I need to know you're in this with me. The question hung between them, heavy yet filled with hope. Emilia felt vulnerable, but empowered by his faith in her. She finally nodded, solidifying her resolve, her heart racing with both fear and excitement. With every beat, she felt stronger, determined to not just survive, but to embrace the chaos beside him. Their dance was about more than just movement. It was a pledge wrapped in devotion and the risk of deceit. She was no longer a passive observer. She was a willing participant in this dangerous game of love. As the gunshots faded and the shadows outside loomed, they held each other tightly, creating a world where desire and danger intertwined. Their dance became a sacred promise. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. In that moment, Emilia understood that love was worth the risk, that true devotion often danced at the edge of deceit. And with that realization, she found the strength to step into the darkness with Luciano, ready to weave their own story amidst the chaos that surrounded them. Second, Sinful Seduction. Chapter 4. Hearts Bound by Blood and Desire. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue across the city. Emilia stood on the balcony, breaths coming in quick bursts as she looked out over the sprawling streets. The night felt heavy, thick with secrets waiting to unfold. She could feel the hum of the city beneath her, a heartbeat synchronized with her own, pulsing with life and danger. Inside, the tension between her and Luciano lingered like a faint scent of smoke, remnants of their recent close encounter. The soft sound of footsteps drew her attention, and Emilia turned to see Luciano emerging from the shadows. His black hair fell over his forehead, and his eyes sparkled with an intensity that made her heart race. He seemed to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders, a protector wrapped in mystery and turmoil. As he stepped closer, she could sense the storm brewing within him. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, amusement flickering on his lips, but Emilia could see the seriousness beneath it. "Just everything," she replied, her fingers twitching at her sides. "This life, it's a lot." Luciano nodded, knowing exactly what she meant. "You're still adjusting. It's a heavy burden, but we'll get through it." His words were reassuring, yet a flicker of doubt danced in her mind. Would they truly get through this? With each moment spent in his presence, she felt herself getting deeper, bound not just by desire, but by something darker and more complex. "How do you handle it? All the blood and secrets?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's part of who I am," he said, the light in his eyes dimming slightly. "But I always hope for something different. Someone different." His gaze lingered on hers, a vulnerable strength mingling between them. "Someone like me?" she asked, feeling a rush of warmth. "Exactly." But even as he said it, Emilia sensed the shadows creeping back into his heart. The truth hung heavy between them, a reminder of the stakes in their world. Before she could respond, the sharp ring of a phone cut through the stillness. Luciano's expression hardened. "I have to take this." He stepped away, leaving her standing alone on the balcony, the tension returning between conflicting emotions. Emilia leaned against the railing, heart pounding as she tried to make sense of everything around her. A part of her craved the thrill, the danger, the allure of living on the edge. But another part whispered caution, urging her to understand the heavy cost of this new life. Luciano returned a moment later, the phone call etched on his face. "There's been a development," he said, his voice low. "We need to leave. Now." "Where are we going?" she asked, panic rising. "To meet someone. They have information about Castro and his men." Fear shot through her, mixing with curiosity. Who could possibly have information that was worth the risk? "Are we walking into a trap?" "They'll try to make it look that way," he replied, his eyes lingering on hers. "But we have no choice. We need allies." Emilia swallowed hard but felt an unfamiliar courage blooming within. "Then let's go. I'm with you." He nodded, a hint of pride lighting his face. "I knew I could count on you." As he gathered a few things, Emilia took a moment to collect her thoughts. This was her chance, a chance to delve deeper into the web that tangled them both. Soon they stepped out into the night, the city alive with flickering lights and secret promises. Emilia could feel the pulse of the streets, vibrant and unyielding. The car ride was filled with an electrifying tension. Her heart raced as Luciano navigated the winding roads, every turn a step deeper into uncertainty. As they pulled up to a rundown bar on the outskirts of town, the air thickened around them. Emilia glanced at Luciano, whose expression was a mix of determination and apprehension. "Are you ready?" he asked, his eyes searching her face. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied. a thrill tingling in her stomach. Together they entered the bar, the heavy door creaking ominously behind them. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with smoke and whispered conversations, the shadows pressing against them as they made their way to the back. Luciano held her hand tightly, a protective gesture that calmed her nerves slightly. They approached a table where a figure sat shrouded in darkness. As they drew closer, the man leaned forward, revealing a face lined with age and intrigue. "Luciano," he greeted, his voice gravelly, "I have what you need." "What do you know about Castro?" Luciano asked without preamble. "Enough to know he won't stop until he has you. And if he can't get you, he'll come after the woman beside you." The man's eyes flickered to Amelia, a hint of pity lurking within. "He's seeking revenge. You're not just targets, you're pawns in a wicked game of power." Amelia's heart sank, fear washing over her. "What do you mean by pawns?" she asked, her voice trembling. The man locked eyes with Luciano. "You're bound by blood and desire, boy. You understand that this love of yours makes you vulnerable, more than you think." The room spun as his words sank in. Did love make them stronger or weaker? She felt torn, fearing the stakes yet yearning for the connection that pulsed between them. Before they could react, the door swung open. The atmosphere shifted, tension growing thick like a storm cloud. Her instincts screamed at her to flee as Castro's men strode in, their presence dark and intimidating. "Looks like we found our little rat," one of them sneered, glaring at Luciano. "Run," Luciano hissed, pulling Amelia closer. But there was nowhere to hide in that cramped bar. The fight was inevitable. As the first blow landed, chaos erupted. Amelia's heart raced as she ducked beneath the tumult of bodies, adrenaline flooding her veins. Luciano fought fiercely, protective and defiant, and all she could do was watch, fear twisting in her gut. Just when it seemed all was lost, Luciano's fierce determination surged through her. They were in this together, bound by more than just blood, their hearts intertwined by the fire of their desires. In the heat of chaos, it dawned on her. This life could break them or bind them tighter. It was a choice only they could make. As they fought side by side, facing the darkness together, Emilia knew that the bond they shared would either save them or plunge them deeper into the abyss. With every strike, with every breath they shared, they became more than just lovers. They became warriors in this twisted game of devotion and deceit, ready to battle for their lives and their hearts. Second, Sinful Seduction. Chapter 5. Shadows of Desire and Deceit. The air was thick with tension as Amelia and Luciano stumbled out of the bar, adrenaline crashing against their hearts. The chaos inside had felt like a whirlwind, each moment blurred by fear and splintered by violence. Outside, the night felt alive, but it was a different kind of alive, somewhere between a heartbeat of danger and the wild thrum of excitement. The shadows danced around them, whispering promises and threats in equal measure. "Are you okay?" Luciano asked urgently as they moved further into the streets, his eyes scanning their surroundings for any sign of danger. The fierce protectiveness in his voice ignited something deep within her, a flutter of emotion that mixed desire with something darker. "I'm fine," she replied, though her body trembled. "But we can't keep running like this." He turned to face her, his eyes fierce. "What do you suggest we do? We're targets now. Castro won't stop until we're caught." Amelia's heart raced as she weighed her options. The idea of hiding felt suffocating, but the thought of confronting Castro and his men seemed like stepping into the mouth of a lion. "We need allies," she said finally, conviction rising within her. "If we can get support, we might stand a chance." Luciano's expression softened for a fleeting moment. "You're braver than I expected," he said, and the warmth of his gaze wrapped around her like a blanket. But just as quickly, the shadows reemerged in his features. "But trust is a dangerous game." With those words, Amelia felt the weight of truth ground her. How could they trust anyone in a world built on betrayal? Yet she couldn't shake the electric connection they shared. They were caught in a web of passion and peril, bound by choices they had yet to make. "We need to go to the old warehouse," Luciano said, pulling her from her thoughts. "There's someone there who might help us." The warehouse was a distant memory, a place where shadows, deeded secrets and danger roamed. "Who do we need to find?" she asked hesitantly. A friend from my past, he replied. He knows this world better than most. Emilia hesitated, fear gnawing at her. The thought of returning to the warehouse filled her with dread. What if it's a trap? She asked, meeting his gaze. What if this friend betrays us? Then we'll deal with it together, he said firmly. But I need you to trust me. Those words hung in the air, heavy with promise and risk. The shadows whispered around them, drawing her deeper into the unknown. Trust became a fragile thing in this world, yet it was the only way forward. So she nodded, pressing through her doubts. Okay, let's go. They navigated the dark alleyways, their footsteps echoing against the cold pavement. Emilia's mind raced with the implications of what they were doing. She could feel danger lurking in the corners, an enemy waiting to strike. But the thought of losing Luciano pushed her forward. They needed each other. As they approached the warehouse, looming like a dark specter, anxiety wrapped around them. The sight of it sent her heart pounding louder. What if he doesn't want to help us? She said, nerves twisting her stomach. He will, Luciano replied, voice steady. But even he seemed uncertain as they stepped inside. The space was dimly lit, shadows flickering against the walls. Emilia felt her breath catch, memories flooding her mind like a rushing river. Right on time, a voice echoed from the darkness. A tall figure emerged, his face half covered by the shadows. Emilia felt her pulse quicken as she recognized the man. You two make quite the pair. Levi, Luciano said, relief flooding his tone. We need your help. Levi stepped closer, measuring them with sharp eyes. I know what you're facing. Castro is not an easy opponent. He won't just chase you, he'll destroy everything you care about. Emilia's heart sank as the weight of reality pressed down. We need a way to defend ourselves, she said. What can you offer? Levi considered her for a moment. Information and resources, but it comes with a price. What kind of price? Luciano asked, his protective instinct flaring. Loyalty, Levi said, his voice steady. I can help you, but you need to be all in. No turning back. Loyalty, Emilia mused, feeling the gravity of his words. The stakes were high, yet the thought of standing strong with Luciano brought fire to her spirit. If they truly bound themselves to this fight, would they grow stronger, or would they lose everything in the flames of betrayal? Luciano glanced at her, seeking her opinion. 1,000 thoughts danced through her mind, flashing like the neon lights in the club. She took a deep breath, feeling the heat of his hand brush against hers. They were tangled in a dance of desire and obligation, hovering on the edge of commitment. I'm in, Emilia said, meeting Levi's gaze. Whatever we face, I won't back down. Not now, not ever. Luciano's eyes sparkled with pride, and at that moment Emilia felt invincible. Shadows may loom around them, but they would not be defeated. We'll gather whatever we can, Levi said, but you need to prepare yourselves for the darkness ahead. Castro won't go down without a fight. As they started to make plans, Emilia felt the bond between her and Luciano strengthen. They were no longer just lovers. They were warriors fueled by passion and purpose. The night might be dark, but it was within. Those shadows that their fire blazed bright. The game was dangerous, but now they were not just playing. They were ready to win. With newfound determination, Emilia understood that love could drive them, but sacrifice and loyalty would shape their battle. She felt confident, deciding to step boldly into the tangled web of desire and deceit, ready to face whatever darkness awaited them in the Chicago underbelly. Together, they would forge their own path, one where trust could thrive amid the Yishui, chaos and danger. Second, Sinful Seduction. Chapter 6. Chasing Shadows of Temptation. The blush of dawn streaked across the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink that felt like a promise of hope. But for Emilia, hope was mingled with anxiety as she and Luciano prepared to chase the shadows lingering from the night before. The aftermath of their confrontation with Castro's men still echoed in her mind, the adrenaline of battle stirring in her veins. Yet it was the thrill of the unknown that called to her, even louder. Are you ready? Luciano asked as they stepped out of the warehouse, the weight of their pact hanging in the air. He looked every bit the warrior, a fierce determination lighting his eyes. But there was also a vulnerability lurking beneath the surface. It tugged at Amelia's heart, making her acutely aware of what was at stake. "I am," she replied, the conviction in her voice surprising even herself. She felt a fire ignite within, fueled by her desire to prove that she could stand strong beside him. As they moved through the city streets, Emilia took in the familiar sights, now shadowed by the danger they faced. The buzzing life around them felt surreal. "Where are we going?" she asked. "We'll meet Levi again. He has intel on Castro's movements," Luciano explained. Though the sun was rising, the world still tipped into darkness with every step they took. With each turn, Emilia felt her heart race, both from the anticipation of confronting the shadows of their foe and from being so close to Luciano. The memories of their shared moments seemed to blur. The dance, the tension, the courage they had both shown. But would it be enough? As they reached a small cafe on a quiet street, she noticed shadows moving in the corners, eyes watching from the distance. Even here, as they searched for safety, Emilia felt vulnerable, trapped in a web of danger. "I don't like this place," she murmured, the words barely escaping her lips. "Stay close," Luciano reassured her, and the simple command ignited a flutter of comfort within. Inside the cafe, the scent of coffee mixed with the lingering sweetness of pastries. They found a small table at the back, shrouded in enough shadows to feel slightly hidden. Moments later, Levi arrived, his presence filling the space. He took a seat across from them, his expression unreadable, like a book with its pages torn out. "Good to see you both again," he said, glancing around as if ensuring they weren't being watched. "Time is of the essence. Castro is making moves, and he knows you're alive." Amelia's heart raced. "What does that mean for us?" "His men are on high alert," Levi replied. "He's reaching out to old allies, trying to gather strength. You need to prepare for an all-out assault." The words hit like a punch. Emilia exchanged a glance with Luciano, her heart pounding in her chest. "What do we do?" she asked, desperation creeping into her voice. "We need to strike first," Luciano stated, the fire building in his eyes. "We can't allow him to dictate our lives any longer." "But how?" Emilia felt torn. The idea of battling the very shadows that haunted them felt daunting. "What can we do against a man like Castro?" Levi leaned in, his voice a low whisper. "We need to find his secrets. That's where his true vulnerability lies." "How?" she pressed. "The old docks. He has a shipment coming in. Drugs, weapons, maybe even new recruits. If you can disrupt that and expose him, you'll strike fear into his operation. But it's dangerous." The gravity of the task ahead pressed down on Emilia. She glanced at Luciano, who met her gaze with a mixture of determination and concern. Could they truly face Castro? Fear tingled at the edges of her mind, but she could also feel the warmth of courage blossoming. "We have to do this," Emilia said, the decision pouring out of her. "If we're going to fight, we need to know what we're up against." Luciano's expression softened, admiration shining in his features. "Then we're doing this together," he said firmly. Levi nodded, handing them a piece of paper with directions etched on it. "This is where the shipment will be. You'll need to be quick and stealthy. Castro's men will be on high alert." The weight of the plan hung in the air, but Emilia felt something shift. They were taking control now, stepping into the shadows with the intent to chase the darkness away. As they finalized their plans, Emilia felt the pull of temptation creeping in. The energy buzzed between them, pressing against her senses. "What if?" she began, hesitating as her heart raced. "What if we can't do this?" "Then we find another way," Luciano said, the determination in his eyes anchoring her. "But we won't give up." As they left the cafe and stepped back into the open air, Emilia felt the weight of the choice they had made. They were chasing shadows, yes, but with each step deeper into this world, they were also chasing each other. The streets felt charged, alive with possibility and danger. The sun continued its ascent, chasing the darkness away, but Emilia knew they were headed into the heart of the storm. "Ready?" Luciano asked, taking her hand in his. "Ready," she whispered, squeezing tightly. They stood at the precipice of uncertainty, caught in a moment that felt suspended in time. Shadows brushed against them, tempting and threatening all at once. Together they stepped forward, hearts echoing the battle call ringing in the air. Each step was filled with purpose and with every heartbeat, they pushed back the darkness. Amelia realized with clarity that this battlefield wasn't just about fighting for their lives, it was also about fighting for what they desired. As they approached the docks, committing to face Castro's wrath, Emilia understood that love could be the light in the shadows. Together they were fearless. Together they were enough. And in chasing these shadows of temptation, they would forge a destiny of their own. Second, Sinful Seduction. Chapter 7. Waltz of Shadows and Secrets. The air was electric as Emilia and Luciano approached the docks. The dark water sloshed against the pier, reflecting the faint glow of the moonlight. Everything was set for a confrontation that felt as inevitable as the tide. Secrets had been swirling around them, and tonight they would expose more than just Castro's schemes. They would unveil their own hidden truths. "Stay close," Luciano warned, his voice low but firm. She nodded, feeling both excitement and dread swirl inside her. They were no longer just running away. They were charging towards something bigger, an enemy seeking to entrap them in a web of lies and danger. Holding hands, they slipped into the shadows, hearts racing like drums in the stillness of the night. The dim lights from the warehouse flickered, casting wavering shadows that danced over their faces. Emilia had never felt so alive and terrified at the same time. Each step felt like a dance, an unpredictable waltz filled with danger and desire. "Remember the plan," Luciano whispered as they reached the entrance. "We go in, gather information, and get out. We don't engage unless necessary." "Understood," she replied, though her heart pounded with disbelief. Would they be able to pull this off without falling into Castro's trap? They moved quietly through the entrance, and the scent of salt and danger enveloped them. The inside of the warehouse was vast and echoing, filled with crates, stacked high and machines whirring ominously. Shadows shifted in the corners, and a feeling of unease crept up Emilia's spine. Suddenly, they stopped upon hearing voices. Luciano pressed her against a wall, urgency narrowing the space between them. "We need to listen," he said, straining to hear the conversation. Emilia's breath caught in her throat as she concentrated on the low tones just ahead. "Bring in the shipment tonight. Once we have the new recruits, we'll make our move against Luciano," one voice said, dripping with malice. "Let's make sure it's perfect this time," said another. "We can't afford any mistakes." Fear shot through Emilia. They were planning something dangerous, and it all revolved around them, or rather, around Luciano. "What are we going to do?" she breathed, panic rising in her chest. "Gather intel first," he replied, pushing forward. With every step, danger pressed in, making it hard to think clearly. They inched closer, ducking behind crates as their adversaries continued discussing plans that felt monstrous. "Once we take him down," one of them said with a laugh, "the city will be ours." Emilia felt a surge of anger mixed with fear. They were just pawns in Castro's game, and the stakes felt higher than ever. But in this moment, she also felt something else, a flicker of resolve. They were together, and together they could fight back. They finally found a vantage point, crouched behind an enormous stack of crates, their breaths calm, yet rapid. Emilia's heart thudded, not just from fear, but from the thrill of knowing they were on the brink of something powerful. Luciano pulled out his phone to document the exchanges quietly. Each word they caught became a lifeline, a piece of the puzzle that would expose the shadows wrapping around their lives. "Did you hear that?" Emilia whispered urgently as she noticed movement around the corner. Luciano's eyes shifted, narrowing. "Yeah, it looks like they're loading supplies." Just as he said it, a figure emerged, stepping into the dim light. Emilia's breath hitched. It was Castro himself, flanked by his men. The air grew heavy with tension as they followed the mob boss's movements. "I want no mistakes tonight," Castro growled, his voice firm, echoing in the vastness of the warehouse. "Luciano thinks he can outsmart me, but I will show him his place." A chill rushed down Emilia's spine. Here was the man who had torn lives apart, the shadow that loomed over them. The sights they had come to collect felt real now, and she could feel her heart pounding with both fear and determination. Caught in a moment of vulnerability, Emilia turned to Luciano, her eyes earnest. "What do we do now? We can't just sit here." His expression softened, but determination surged behind his gaze. We wait for the right moment. We have to shift this power dynamic. But the tension in the air suffocated her. She could feel the weight of their choices pressing down like a storm cloud. Was there ever a right moment when dealing with monsters? Suddenly, a shout rang out, breaking her focus. "Hey, what are you doing back here?" One of Castro's men had spotted them, eyes narrowed and hostile. "Run!" Luciano shouted, grabbing Emilia's hand as they sprinted away. Panic surged as they dashed through the maze of crates. They could hear footsteps closing in, shouts echoing around them. Emilia's heart raced. Fear mingled with fierce resolve. This was their fight, and she would not back down. They feed or dashed toward a side exit, adrenaline carrying them forward. But just as they reached it, Emilia froze. A figure loomed at the doorway, blocking their escape. It was one of Castro's men, a cruel smile curling his lips. "Going somewhere?" he sneered. Desperate, Emilia glanced back at Luciano, who pulled her close. "We need to fight," he said, eyes fierce and protective. But her voice trailed off, noise fading into the background in that moment. The shadows were everywhere and fear threatened to consume her. But then she felt it, the warmth of Luciano's hand intertwining with hers, a connection that flickered like a flame against the darkness. "We don't back down," he whispered, fierce and unwavering. With that, they charged forward together, adrenaline coursing through them. Emilia wasn't just running. She was striking back, embracing the shadows of fear and transforming them into something powerful. Together, they exploded into the fray, determined to fight against the tangled web of secrets. They fought fiercely, a waltz of shadows and chaos. Each punch, each movement was fluid, an intricate dance fueled by love and survival. As they fought together, Emilia realized they were not just battling Castro or his men. They were fighting for their own destiny, reclaiming power over the shadows that hung over them. In the end, as they pushed through the chaos, they broke free, leaving the warehouse behind them. The night was alive, filled with uncertainty and danger, but also with promise. Emilia looked at Luciano, their breaths mingling in the cool night air, and felt a fierce connection. They had faced the storm together, and together they could weather whatever came next. In chasing their shadows, they discovered their strength, a bond forged in the fires of danger and desire. No longer just a dance, this was their fight, and they were ready to win. Second, Sinful Seduction. Chapter 8. The Tangled Web of Temptation. As the first light of dawn crept through the city, Emilia stood at the window, heart racing. She could still feel the adrenaline of the night's chaos coursing through her veins. Shadows of fear and excitement intertwined, wrapping around her like a cloak. But even as she caught her breath, doubts loomed over her mind. The fight wasn't over, and the stakes grew higher with every passing moment. Luciano entered the room, his presence filling the space with warmth. He was a fierce protector, his gaze steady, but worry creased his brow. "How are you holding up?" he asked, his voice a soft murmur against the morning silence. "I'm okay," Emilia replied, though her heart felt heavy with uncertainty. "But we need to figure out our next move. We can't keep running. Castro will always be one step ahead." He nodded, the weight of their predicament clear in his eyes. "We have to be smarter. We need to turn the tables on him." Emilia's mind raced. The previous night had been only a taste of the dangers they faced. "What if we could expose his secrets?" she suggested, a spark of hope igniting within her. "If we uncover his plans, we can weaken him." Luciano's eyes lit up with intrigue. "That could work. But how do you propose we do that?" "His men talked about a shipment," she replied, remembering the conversation they had overheard. "If we can trace that back to Castro's suppliers, we might find evidence against him." "Brilliant," he said, a smile breaking through the tension. "But it's not going to be easy. Castro will have eyes everywhere." Despite the danger, Emilia felt a sense of empowerment. They were no longer just fleeing. They were taking control of their fate. "If we work together, we can do this," she declared, feeling the fire of her determination rise. "We will," Luciano said, his voice filled with conviction. "But we have to be careful. The web we're trying to untangle is complicated. One wrong move, and it could all come crashing down." As they formulated their plans, Emilia knew the danger would only escalate. They were stepping into the heart of darkness, and the temptation to turn back lingered at the edges of her thoughts. But she also felt her bond with Luciano growing stronger, forged through their shared purpose. Together, they could brave the storm that awaited them. Later that day, they met Levi again, this time in a secluded cafe on the outskirts of the city. The place had a worn charm, with dim lighting and wooden tables that told stories of laughter and whispers. Emilia could feel her pulses quickening. Each moment was charged with the possibility of confrontation. Levi arrived, sliding into the booth across from them. "What's the plan?" he asked, eyeing them expectantly. "We think we can expose Castro," Emilia said, taking a breath. "We overheard them mention a shipment coming in. If we can trace it back, we might find incriminating evidence." A slow smile spread across Levi's face. "Now that's the kind of energy I like to see. But remember, this is not just a game of chess. It's war. Castro won't go down easily." "Neither will we," Luciano replied, his voice steady. Levi leaned back, contemplating. "All right, here's what you need to do. I have a contact who runs alongside Castro's operations. He might have details about the shipment." "Can you set up a meeting?" Emilia asked, excitement bubbling within her. Levi nodded. "But it'll be risky. He's not reliable, and he might tip Castro off. You both need to tread carefully." Emilia exchanged glances with Luciano, their hearts racing. They both understood the implications. The deeper they dove into the web of deceit, the higher stakes rose. If they made the wrong move, everything could shatter. "Let's do it," she said, determination flaring in her chest. Levi laid out the details, instructing them to meet his contact at an old industrial site outside the city. With each passing moment, she felt the anticipation roiling deep within her. They were stepping deeper into Castro's world, where secrets thrived, but so did shadows of temptation. As the meeting approached, Emilia felt a storm brewing inside her. Memories from the past flickered like candlelight. Her life before Luciano, innocent and untouched by chaos. Now she was tangled in a fierce dance of desire, where every choice could lead to ruin or redemption. When they arrived at the industrial site, dusk blanketed the area, painting it in shades of gray and purple. The air was thick with moisture, and the distant sound of machinery underscored the tension crackling between them. They made their way carefully, scanning their surroundings for any sign of danger. Suddenly, a figure stepped out from the shadows, the outline barely visible. "You're late," a voice grumbled, dripping with disdain. "I'm sorry," Emilia said, stepping forward. "We were given poor directions." "Whatever," the man said, folding his arms. "Let's get down to business. What do you want?" It was startling how quickly everything shifted. Emilia struggled to keep her composure as she began to outline their need for information about Castro's shipment. The man listened, his expression measuring. "You don't know who you're dealing with, do you?" he asked, a smirk creeping onto his lips. "You think you can play this game? Castro doesn't take kindly to anyone snooping around." She felt a shiver of doubt creep in. "We're not afraid," she replied, trying to project calm. "Brave words for a girl who doesn't understand," he scoffed. Anger flared within Emilia, but she knew she needed to stay calm. "I understand enough to know that he'll be taken down if we can get the right information," she shot back. The man paused, and for a moment, their eyes locked. She could feel the tension in the air, a battle of wills. Was this a chance for a breakthrough or a trap laid out for them? Finally, he sighed. "Fine, I'll tell you what I know. But if Castro finds out," his voice trailed off ominously, a threat lingering between them. "Go on," Luciano urged, leaning forward. "His shipment will come in at midnight. There's a dock less frequented, the one that looks abandoned. But trust me, it's crawling with his men, and they won't hesitate to shoot." Emilia's heart raced with this new information. They had a lead, but danger lay ahead. "How can we be sure you're not setting us up?" He grinned. "You'll have to take that chance, won't you?" The tension thickened in the air. Emilia could feel the web of temptation pulling her deeper. They were setting a course that would either lead to victory or disaster. "Thanks for the information," Luciano said, trying to maintain control, but Emilia sensed the uncertainty beneath his confidence. As they left, the weight of the man's words lingered in the back of her mind. The tangled web of temptation continued to twist around them. The closer they got to the truth, the more the shadows threatened to pull them back. Are we really ready for this? Amelia asked softly, turning to Luciano. We have to be, he replied, determination coding each word. This is our chance to take control and fight back. In that moment, Amelia felt the gravity of their choices. They were stepping into the depths of danger, entangled in a web of shadows and temptation. Perhaps they could emerge victorious, but the risks were undeniable. The battle wasn't just for their lives, it was for their future together. With hearts beating as one, they prepared to face the darkness ahead, determined to weave their own fate amidst the tangled threads of deceit. The web would either trap them or set them free. Together they would find out which. Second, Sinful Seduction. Chapter 9. The Ruin of Innocence. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows as Amelia and Luciano approached the docks. Tension crackled in the air around them, thick and suffocating like fog. They were only moments away from what could either be their salvation or their doom. Amelia's heart raced, each beat mirroring the uncertainty swirling in her stomach. Their fate hung in the balance, and they both knew it. This is it, Luciano said, squeezing her hand as they walked. Are you ready? Amelia paused, feeling the weight of his question. She looked into his intense eyes, seeking reassurance. I don't think I can ever be fully ready for this, she admitted, but we have to do it. For us. He nodded, determination etching deeper lines on his face. Amelia drew strength from him, but deep down a sense of dread clung to her. They had battled shadows, but tonight felt different. The very air vibrated with danger, and she could almost hear the whispers of their past innocence being stripped away. As they neared the side dock mentioned by the informant, the scenery around them shifted. Abandoned crates were piled high, and rusted metal creaked against the water's pull. It felt like a graveyard of dreams, a stark reminder of what they had once wanted versus what they were about to face. We need to be quiet, Luciano instructed. Stay close. Emilia nodded, her pulse racing. They slipped between the shadows, keeping low as the night deepened around them. The sound of distant laughter echoed, mingling with the cries of seagulls overhead. Peeking around a corner, she saw several figures gathered near a large shipping container. Castro's men. They were celebrating, eyes darting around with echoes of smugness and confidence that made Amelia's skin crawl. This was the darkness they had fought against. Lives ruined for greed and power. Do you see him? Amelia whispered to Luciano, who strained to spot Castro among the throng. Not yet, he replied, his voice barely above a whisper. But if we can get just a little closer... Amelia's heart hammered as they crouched low, the atmosphere charged with anxiety. The noise from the gathering felt infectious, a sort of dark energy that threatened to pull them in. She could feel the pull of temptation, this world of darkness where everything was possible. But at what cost? A sudden burst of laughter broke through, and Amelia felt her breath hitch. It's a risk, she whispered, a chill, creeping up her spine. What if they see us? Luciano turned to her, the light from the nearby barrels reflecting in his eyes. We can't let fear control us. We need to expose Castro. This is the only chance. With a nod, Amelia steeled herself as they crept further, inching closer with silent determination. But just then, a shadow darted in their direction. Hey, you there! A voice shouted, piercing the night. Instinct kicked in, and before she knew it, Luciano had grabbed her wrist, pulling her back into a darkened corner. They pressed against the cold wall, hearts pounding in synchronization. The figure moved closer, scrutinizing the darkness where they hid. Emilia held her breath, praying the man wouldn't find them. Come out and face me, he yelled again, more aggressively now. Stay calm, Luciano whispered, his voice laced with urgency. We have to wait for our moment. As the man squinted into the shadows, Emilia's mind raced. If they were caught, this could all end. A chill ran through her, mingling with a deep-seated fear. A fear that resonated with the thought of everything she could lose. All the things she once took for granted. The safety, the innocence of her life before Luciano. Then she heard it. The sound of footsteps approaching from behind. Another man, his voice booming with authority. What's going on? Did you see something? No, I thought I heard something, the first man replied, visibly shaken. Just shadows, I guess. Emilia's heart sank. Shadows. That was all they were now. Just shadows. And she fought against the realization that the life she once knew was slipping further away. We have to move, Luciano urged, and Emilia nodded. They slipped into the darker alcove, hearts racing as they surveyed the scene once more. Their eyes widened as they caught sight of Castro finally appearing, flanked by his men. He stepped forward, a sinister smile spreading across his face, a predator sizing up his prey. Time to bring in the shipment, he announced, making a sweeping gesture. The men around him cheered, clinking glasses full of illicit drinks that reflected a desperate sense of power. Emilia felt anger rise within her. This man had destroyed lives for the sake of greed, and now he stood there, reveling in his success like a king among fools. Luciano's gaze caught hers, a wild mixture of fear and determination there. We need to act now, he said firmly. Together they started moving again, edging closer to gather crucial information. Just as they reached a vantage point, Emilia heard Castro's voice slice through the air. Once we take down Luciano, this city is ours. No more threats, no more games. We will rule. The reality of his words struck her like daggers. They were not just fighting for their lives. They were battling for the very souls of countless innocents threatened by Castro's corruption. It was her turn to act. We can't let him win. We have to expose him, she hissed fervently, adrenaline pumping through her veins. Luciano gripped her shoulder, a fierce spark igniting in his eyes. I'll distract them. You get the evidence. We can turn the tide. No, Luciano, it's too dangerous, she protested, panic rising. Trust me, he said, his gaze unwavering, fierce in its determination. I won't let anything happen to you. With that, he slipped away into the shadows, leaving her heart racing, fear mingling with the undeniable pull of their shared purpose. Emilia held her breath, watching as he drew the attention of several men. They moved toward him, their energy electrifying the air around them, and she knew this was her chance. Adrenaline surged, urging her forward. As she slipped toward the gathering, Emilia cringed at the very thought of the innocence she had lost, the carefree days spent dreaming of a bright future. Now she was tangled in a web of darkness, fighting for not just her life, but also for everything that had been stolen from countless others. She reached for her phone, her fingers trembling as she captured the evidence of Castro's actions flashing before her. This could change everything, but before she could react, someone grabbed her arm. Hey, what do you think you're doing? Emilia turned, panic rising as she found herself face to face with one of Castro's men. The world around her felt surreal, and for a moment, shadows of fear threatened to swallow her whole. But then, she remembered Luciano's words. Boldness swelled inside her. I'm here to show the world the truth, she said fiercely, surprising even herself. The man laughed, a sound filled with darkness. You think you can take us down? You're just a girl. No, she shouted, gathering her courage. I'm more than that. In that instant, the focus shifted. Emilia found her voice, determined to fight back against the darkness that threatened to consume her. Just as chaos erupted around her, Luciano rushing in, fists flying, Emilia revealed the evidence she had captured, her heart pounding. As her world teetered on the brink of chaos, this was her moment, a chance to reclaim something precious taken from her by the shadows, a chance to expose the truth that threatened to ruin them all. In that whirlwind of confusion, she realized innocence might be lost, but strength could be found in the most unexpected places. Together they could fight against the tide of darkness and temptations. Together they could rise as warriors conquering a broken world one step at a time. Second, Sinful Seduction. Chapter 10. Love in the Line of Fire. The air was thick with tension as Emilia stood amidst chaos, her heart pounding loudly in her ears. Sirens wailed in the distance, the sound merging with the frantic shouts of Castro's men. The world felt like it was spinning out of control. She had moments before captured the evidence they needed to expose the corruption that shrouded their lives, but now danger loomed in every corner. Emilia, get down! Luciano shouted, his voice slicing through the chaos. She ducked instinctively, her heart racing as he pulled her close, shielding her from the fray that erupted around them. As fists flew and shouts filled the air, the reality of their situation hit Emilia like a cold wave. They were in the middle of a battle. The line between love and danger blurred into a terrifying dance. What was once a quest for freedom had spiraled into chaos, and she felt the weight of every choice hanging above them. "Stay close," Luciano instructed, fire burning in his eyes. Emilia could sense the raw resolve in him. He was ready to fight, to protect her at all costs, and that made her pulse quicken. The warehouse had become a battlefield, and in the flickering lights, overheated tempers flared. Castro's men were furious, their loyalty tossed aside as they scrambled to react to the exposure. Emilia watched as Luciano moved with swift purpose, navigating the chaos around them, pulling her with him through the swirling storm of bodies. "We need to find a way out," Emilia shouted over the noise, her eyes wide with fear. Every punch and shout echoed around them, a perverse symphony of violence that made her stomach twist. "Just a little longer," Luciano said, grit evident in his voice. "I need to find Castro." Emilia felt a rush of panic. "What if he sees you?" "He has to be stopped," Luciano countered sharply. "If we don't confront him now, he'll just go after us later." For a moment, their eyes locked, and in that fleeting exchange, Emilia saw everything they had shared. The warmth, the joy, and the deep connection that had formed between them in such a short time. Fueled by passion, they had fought through shadows, ready to carve out their destiny. But this moment was different. This was a point of no return. Just as Emilia was about to protest again, a loud crash echoed through the warehouse, drawing her attention away from Luciano. A figure had stumbled into view. Castro, his expression one of unrestrained fury. Emilia felt the chill of fear wash over her. This was the man responsible for so much destruction, standing living proof of the darkness they faced. "Get them! Don't let them escape!" Castro shouted, his voice a whip of command. Panic surged through Emilia as she grabbed Luciano's arm. "We have to go! Now!" He nodded, and in that instant, they dashed toward an open door at the far end of the warehouse, adrenaline pumping through their veins. The sound of heavy boots thundered behind them, fear pulsating as bodies clashed in the chaos. "Luciano," Emilia called out, her voice trembling. "Will we be okay?" "We will," he promised, but a flicker of uncertainty edged his features. She couldn't look back. She needed to trust him, as impossible as it felt in that chaotic moment. With desperation in her heart, they breached the doorway, bursting out into the cool night air, gasping for breath. But freedom came with a cost. Castro's men poured through behind them, a horde of shadows intent on reclaiming their prey. "Over here!" Luciano pointed to an alleyway, leading them away from the impending danger. They sprinted, ducking into the narrow passage, keeping low. "How are we going to escape?" Emilia panted, the night pressing in on them like a vice. "Hop a fence, find shelter," Luciano replied quickly, his focus razor-sharp. "We'll regroup and plan our next steps." Just as they rounded a corner, a shout echoed behind them. "There they are!" Emilia felt icy dread as she turned to see two of Castro's men charging after them. "Hurry!" she urged Luciano, racing with a determination she didn't know she possessed. They burst through another gate, crashing onto the street. The bright lights of a nearby diner shimmered like an oasis, and for a split second, hope welled inside her. But it was short-lived as she sensed movement within. "Let's go inside," Luciano said urgently, pulling her toward the door. Emilia cursed her frantic heart as it pounded in measure with their footsteps. They slipped inside, breaths ragged, and ducked behind the counter just as heavy footsteps thudded past outside. Emilia could hear Castro's men searching, their voices low and menacing. She leaned against Luciano, the warmth of his body grounding her in the moment. "Why did this happen?" she whispered, anger rising within her. "We should have been prepared. We should have been safe." "We couldn't have known," Luciano replied, frustration creeping into his voice. "All we can do now is keep fighting." In the brief silence that followed, a flicker of doubt settled in Emilia's mind. She had wanted to expose the shadows, but now they were entangled in a dangerous game driven by cruelty. Was their love strong enough to survive this line of fire? "I can't lose you," she muttered, staring intently into Luciano's eyes. Not after everything we fought for. He cupped her face in his hands, a fierce determination etched across his features. You won't. I promise you, Emilia. I will do whatever it takes. Just then the door swung open, and in rushed one of the diner's employees, confusion racking her features. What's going on? She asked, her eyes darting nervously. Get down, Luciano shouted, launching himself toward the door as he shielded Emilia with his body. With a sudden burst of chaos, the diner erupted. Shadows spilled in as Castro's men opened fire, bullets ricocheting, the weight of violence pressing heavy on everyone inside. Emilia's heart hammered. She was afraid, but even more, she felt anger rising. Anger at the world they were forced into. Anger at their innocence lost in a whirlwind of chaos. Get behind the counter, the employee screamed, and they all dove for cover. Emilia clung to Luciano, her heart racing wild in their shared fear. She felt the warmth of his body next to hers, the promise of his love igniting a spark of strength within her. Vulnerability was nothing but a fleeting moment now. With every passing second, they became warriors fighting back against the tide of shadows. As the chaos outside grew, she felt fearless. Memories of laughter and joy blended with this moment of raw courage. She realized love was not just about the sweet moments. It was also forged in fire, in chaos. It meant standing firm, even amid stormy waters. With a fierce cry, Emilia sprang forward, snatching a heavy iron pan from the counter. We can't let them win, she exclaimed, rallying her strength. She knew she had to fight alongside Luciano to protect what they had built. Together they surged forward, positioning themselves to confront the enemy. This was their moment, a testament to their love amid the line of fire. They were more than just lovers in a tangled web. They were two souls willing to face the shadows, standing strong together. Even as danger loomed, Emilia felt the strength of their bond lifting her spirit. She wouldn't let fear dictate her fate. In that charged moment, she understood that love could conquer even the darkest nights. As the battle loomed closer, she was ready to reclaim their lives from the fire that sought to consume them. Together they would rise, fueled by love in the line of fire. Second, Sinful Seduction. Chapter 11. The Sweet Poison of Desire. The night was thick, heavy with anticipation. Emilia stood at the edge of the dimly lit room, her heart racing as she watched Luciano prepare for the next phase of their fight against Castro. They had just escaped the diner, but the reality of their situation felt more precarious than ever. The thrill of survival was intertwined with the agonizing weight of their choices, and yet each decision felt charged with the sweet poison of desire. Luciano's jaw was set in determination, but she could see the weariness in his eyes. He had fought valiantly, protecting her and risking his life time and again. But with every passing moment, Emilia could feel the tension between them, a mix of fear, longing, and an unquenchable desire. In that dark room, surrounded by shadows, desire felt both intoxicating and dangerous. We need to regroup, Luciano said, his voice steady but low. I have a plan to draw Castro out. What do you have in mind? She asked, stepping closer. The air was charged and she could barely breathe as tension hung between them like a taut string on the verge of snapping. He looked at her, eyes filled with fierce resolve, yet softened by affection. I want to use myself as bait. If he thinks he can take me down, he'll show himself. You can record everything. Emilia shook her head. That's too risky. What if something goes wrong? What if he gets to you first? Luciano's expression hardened. We can't keep running. We have to confront him. I won't hide anymore. She felt anger rise within her. You're not just a pawn in this game, Luciano. You're my partner. We should face this together. But deep down, Emilia struggled with her own desires. One part of her wanted to scream at him to be careful, while another part felt the intoxicating thrill of fighting alongside him. The sweet poison of desire wrapped around her heart, urging her to stay close, yet fear twisted in her gut. Together, yes, Iver countered, stepping closer still. But I can't let you take the risk. If Castro finds out you're with me, he'll use you against me. Sorrow mixed with anger in Emilia's chest. They were tangled in a dangerous web, caught between love and fear. I can stand my ground, you know that. He brushed his fingers against her cheek, and a wave of warmth surged. I know you can, but I can't lose you. Not to him. In that moment, everything else faded. The world outside, the shadows lurking at every corner, the chaos of their lives, all fell away. Just the two of them remained, lost in each other's gaze. She could feel the weight of their choices pressing down, but desire flickered like a flame between them, igniting something ancient and raw. Their lips brushed. It was a brief touch, a whisper of what could be, yet powerful enough to send shivers down her spine. Emilia craved him, craved not just his body but the safety he provided, the thrill of being by his side as they fought against the tide of darkness. Let me help, she urged, her voice thick with emotion. I want to fight for us, for both of us. Luciano hesitated, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. And if something happens to you, I can't bear that thought. A tear escaped, trailing down her cheek. We're stronger together. If we're going to bring down Castro, it must be as a team. Otherwise, what's all this for? For a long moment, they stayed locked in each other's gaze, the tension electrifying. The moment felt charged, almost surreal, as if the universe held its breath. Finally, he sighed, his resolve softening. All right, but we need to be smart about this. We can't let temptation cloud our judgment. Emilia nodded, a newfound sense of purpose surging through her. Together they could weave through the shadows. Together they would face Castro and dismantle his empire of fear. As they finalized their plan, a flicker of desire remained, casting a glow over their resolve. Emilia felt alive, swept away by the intoxicating combination of fear and longing. This was the moment that defined them, the crossroads between ruin and hope. Their love was the sweet poison that fueled their fight. Later they made their way to a secluded warehouse where they hoped to draw Castro out. The night felt heavy with anticipation as they prepared for the confrontation. Emilia took a deep breath, glancing sideways at Luciano. His presence anchored her as they approached their destiny. Ready? He asked, a voice steady yet tinged with urgency. Ready, she replied, though her heart raced. The shadows around them felt alive, thick with anticipation, and she couldn't shake off the feeling that they were standing on the edge of a precipice. As they entered the warehouse, darkness enveloped them. They moved cautiously, quiet as whispers. Emilia's pulse quickened, each sound amplifying her anxiety. She felt the walls closing in, but the desire to fight alongside Luciano drowned out her fear. Stay alert, he whispered as they faded into the shadows. Every breath a shared promise. Moments stretched like eternity, and Emilia's thoughts raced. Would this night bring them what they sought? Would they finally unearth the truth, or would it cast them further into the darkness? Suddenly, lights flickered on, illuminating a makeshift stage at the center of the warehouse. Emilia's heart leaped as she spotted Castro, flanked by his men. He had set a trap, but they had walked right into it. Welcome, Luciano, Castro's voice boomed, dripping with malice. I've been waiting for you. Emilia's blood ran cold. We have to move, she urged, panic bubbling in her chest. But Luciano stood firm. Not yet. Wait for my signal. The tension in Emilia's chest tightened. She felt the sweet poison of desire mingling with fear. Could they truly confront Castro? Was he strong enough to survive this moment? As the confrontation unfolded, Luigi's bravado gave way to anger as Castro taunted him. Emilia watched closely, realizing this was their moment of truth. She sprung into action, recording the evidence they needed while navigating the chaos erupting around her. Suddenly, a fight broke out, and the air became filled with chaos. In that whirlwind, Emilia's heart raced. They were pushing against their limits, fighting for their future, for everything they held dear. She could see Luciano battling shadows in the midst of it all, and her breath caught in her throat, the passion igniting within. Her melded with fear, and she knew this was the moment that defined everything. As the fight reached its peak, Emilia caught Castro's eye, a malicious glint promising chaos. You think this will end well for you? He mocked, stepping forward with a predatory grace. No, Emilia shouted, stepping into the spotlight. It's over for you. With that declaration, she released the recording, exposing Castro's deeds for everyone to see. The chaos that ensued verified their love's strength amid the turmoil. As sirens echoed in the night, Emilia grasped Luciano's hand, feeling the warmth of their shared fight. The sweet poison of desire became fuel for their fire, igniting a passion that soared above the chaos. They would face whatever came next together, unyielding against the dark, drawing strength from the love they found in the middle of a raging storm. In the aftermath of it all, Emilia understood that while they had crossed into the shadows, they were forging their path toward something brighter. Together they would emerge victorious. Together they would write the next chapter of their lives, woven through love and the strength to fight against fate. Second, Sinful Seduction. Chapter 12. Chains of Lust and Loyalty. The morning sun pierced through the window, casting a golden hue over Emilia and Luciano as they sat in the small, cluttered room after the chaos of the night. It felt surreal to be alive, to be together after everything they had faced. The storm outside had calmed, but the echoes of gunfire and shouting lingered in their minds like shadows that refused to fade. Emilia wrapped her arms around her knees, eyes glued to the floor. She felt a mix of relief and overwhelming fear. "What happens now?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Luciano turned to her, his face serious but calm. "We have time to regroup," he said, "but Castro won't rest easily. If there's one thing we've learned, it's that he plays for keeps." She nodded, but unease settled deeper in her stomach. They had escaped the chaos, but the battle was far from over. In the depths of her mind, doubt began to twist like a tight chain. They had fought for their lives, for each other, yet the cost was heavy. The loyalty they shared felt like a double-edged sword, both binding and potentially destructive. "Do you think we can trust Levi?" Emilia asked, recalling the informant who had aided them. "He's been in this world longer. What if he's using us?" Luciano sighed. "I trust him," he replied firmly. "He's helped me more than anyone else. We just have to be careful." Her heart ached with the thought of trust. What if they became pawns in someone else's game? The chains of lust and loyalty they forged together were powerful, but they also held the weight of uncertainty. "We can't let our guard down, and we definitely can't get comfortable." Emilia continued, her voice trembling with emotion. "What if we're caught in another trap?" Luciano reached out, cupping her face gently. "Then we'll fight, together, no matter what." His eyes held hers, fierce and reassuring. They carried the promise of unwavering loyalty, woven with a shared lust for survival, a fierce craving that stretched beyond mere survival and dove straight into the depth of their connection. As days passed, they prepared for their next move. Each moment they spent together felt heavy with meaning and tension. Emilia watched Luciano when he trained, the way sweat glistened on his forehead and determination etched on his face as he practiced. He was a warrior, fueled not just by duty, but by a desire to protect her. "I've made a plan," he said one evening, breaking the silence that had wrapped around them like a blanket. "We need to expose Castro once and for all. We've gathered information, but now we need a clear strategy." Emilia felt a spark of hope ignite. "What do you need me to do?" she asked eagerly, her fears momentarily forgotten. "Allies," he replied. "We need to remind everyone who holds the real power. This city is ours and we will not be intimidated." But doubt slipped back into her heart. What if they don't support us? What if we end up losing everything? "Again?" Luciano smirked. "We're not lost, Emilia. Not now. We have each other, and that matters most." His words filled her with warmth, yet deep down she felt the chain of guilt and love coil tighter. Loyalty demanded sacrifice, and with every plan they made, Emilia wondered what they would lose in the process. Over the next few days, they met clandestinely with old alliances, gathering support. The discussions were intense and filled with the tension of distrust. Everyone knew Castro's reputation. His influence spread like poison, driving fear into the hearts of many. Emilia watched Luciano rally the others with such passion. He was like a flame, burning brightly, igniting motivation in those around him. But she sensed an undercurrent of anxiety within him, a worry that gnawed at his resolve. It only tightened the chains of loyalty around her heart. One night, after a particularly tense meeting, Emilia found Luciano sitting alone in the dark, the city lights flickering through the window. "What's on your mind?" she asked softly, approaching him. I don't know. Oh, wait," he replied, staring straight ahead. "All of this, the battles, the choices, it's heavy. We're fighting for what we believe," she reminded him, but his troubled expression remained. "And what if belief isn't enough?" he asked, vulnerability shining through his facade. "What if I can't protect you like I promised?" Emilia's heart sank. "You have done so much, Luciano. You saved my life countless times, but sometimes feeling lost is part of the fight." He turned to face her, eyes searching. "And what about you? What if my loyalty leads us down a path to ruin?" In that moment, the chains of lust and loyalty felt suffocating. She stepped closer, placing her hand over his. "I choose this path no matter the cost. We all have chains, but we can decide if they bind us or strengthen us. Together we can choose to break free." The connection between them felt electric. Everything around them faded as her heart raced in tune with the raw emotion that crackled in the air. They shared a longing that spiraled deeper than flesh. It was about the unseen ties that bound them as partners in a dangerous dance. Days melted into nights, and as the plan unfolded, Emilia felt both hopeful and terrified. They were on the cusp of something monumental, but the stakes felt higher than ever. She was caught between the allure of power and the loyalty she felt not just to Luciano, but to the city, to their future. Finally, the night arrived when they would confront Castro. Emilia's heart was a whirlwind of emotions as they stood outside the warehouse, where they had first faced chaos. The shadows loomed, but the light of their bond burned brightly. "We'll face him together," Luciano said, his voice steady. She felt reassured, yet her stomach churned with nerves. Emilia clasped his hand tightly, the warmth flooding through her. She could almost sense the power they held, the network of people, supporting them. "No matter what happens, we stand united," she affirmed, drawing strength from their shared fate. As they stepped inside, the atmosphere thickened. The crowd was tense, explosive with anticipation. It was here, amidst the alliances formed and the chains of lust and loyalty, that boundaries would be tested. Would their love survive the dark tendencies of the world they had chosen, or would it crumble under pressure? "Luciano," Castro called from his throne of arrogance, "you believe you can take what's mine?" Emilia felt the weight of his words, but she also felt the unity of those around her. In that moment, she understood. The chains they carried were powerful, but together they could forge something stronger. "Not if we stand together. This city belongs to us," Luciano declared, voice ringing with conviction. Emilia stood beside him, heart resolute. They had chosen their path, and together they would unravel the chains of control. This was the moment that would define their love, and it would echo far beyond the walls of the Mafia's grasp. Steeling herself, she knew this was just the beginning. Whatever chains bound them, they had the power to break free. With love in their hearts and loyalty to each other, they would face whatever darkness lay ahead together.